This is Average Joe PT, and today Scully and I, we're going to talk about tricky knee. That kind of knee pain when you first get up, or you just kind of take a step and all of a sudden it feels kind of weird. We're going to go over what the heck could that even be. So I want you guys to stick around. Here we go. Now the knee is a funny joint. There's a lot of things in this knee joint that can go wrong. Now let me just zoom up real close here just to kind of give you an idea of what I'm talking about. We're talking about that kneecap, we're talking about that knuckle, we're talking about the shin, and then the bone on this side, the fibula. Now any 3 or 4 of these things can go wrong. Tendons, ligaments, bursa, all these crazy words that I'm talking about right now can all get inflamed and cause you any kind of pain in that knee joint. From a meniscal tear, to an ACL tear, to an lateral collateral ligament or LCL tear. All these different types of acronyms or words can really throw you off when you have a knee pain. You go and see a doctor and they say, oh yeah, you have a blah 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 and a blah blah blah. And you're like, what the heck does this even mean? So we're going to go over some of that stuff right now. So number one, when we're talking about the kneecap, it is a weird shaped looking bone, fancy word, a sesamoid bone, and that literally, as we bend that knee and straighten that kneecap goes up and down this bone. That bone's got little grooves in it, and it's got cartilage. And depending on how this kneecap is tilted, if you have what we call a tilted knee or lateral tracking knee or anything like that, it can give you some pain when you go to bend and stand up for a few seconds. You kind of rub it, kind of stretches out a bit, and all of a sudden it starts to feel better. And all you did there is just kind of shift that kneecap, maybe stretched a little bit of the tissue, and all of a sudden your knee is fine. And it could be something as simple as that. You know, you could be standing up, doing a squat. You might get down on a knee for a second. When you go to get up, it's like, ooh. Could be something simple as that. It could be a little bit of arthritis in that knee joint. Now, this little kneecap back there can get arthritis on it, the wearing of the cartilage on this bone or on this bone. So any of those joints that kind of glide together and do that little thing can give you pain. And especially if you're going real deep and it puts a lot of stress on that knee. So it could be a little arthritis. Now, Scully and I want you to stick around, so I got a little bit more information for you when it comes to where the heck else could this tricky knee pain be coming from. So stay tuned. Now let's just talk here for a few seconds. You hear a pop, a crack, a snap, whatever going on in that knee joint, especially when you get up from, from a chair, car, toilet, wherever you're coming up from, sit to stand. You get that pop or crack, and it's just, oh, okay, and you're fine. Where the heck is that? What's that popping noise? What's we even talking about? What that is you have fluid inside this joint space. And that fluid has gas in it. And when that gas kind of escapes, it makes a popping noise. And that can happen in your spine with manipulations. They call it cavitation. That popping noise that you hear. And so it shouldn't be painful. Actually, it might relieve a little pressure in that knee joint, and all of a sudden it feels better again. Now you don't want to start forcing that constantly, that popping noise or popping sensation, by twisting your knees like that. Hear that little pop or whatever, because it can cause inflammation after a while, and those tendons and across either side of the joint and on the back side of the joint, they can get inflamed if you're just repetitively doing that constantly. Next thing you know, you're giving yourself a tendonitis, which is number 3. You can get a tendonitis in this knee joint. And so the tendons that cross down here on this front side here on this knee, fancy word for this is called the pes anserine or anserine. Essentially, it's 3 tendons that come down like that. And the funny word, that pes anser, what the heck does that mean? Actually, in Latin, it means goose foot. So literally, when they thought of this, and they saw those 3 tendons and how they came down along the inside of that knee, they thought it looked like a goose's foot. So that's kind of weird, but all you need to do with that is probably just ice it for a few days, maybe take some ibuprofen, get that tendon to calm down. Excuse me, those 3 tendons, and all of a sudden it starts to feel a little bit better. A lot of times that's happening is because you have inwards with that knee joint, and it's causing a lot of overstretching on that knee. Maybe if you did a lot of stairs, a lot of squatting, or something along those lines, it can affect those tendons that way. Now, it could be coming from your foot if there's a flat foot issue going on, and like I showed you, it could be coming from your hip if you have some weakness in your hip. But the reality is, if you just ice it for a few days, stop that activity, it'll start to feel a little bit better, and you'll be on your way. You know, whatever you want to do. So, if it's a tendonitis, so we've talked about several things. We talked about repetitive trauma. We've talked about tendinitises. We've talked about kneecap tracking. You know, like I said, there's a lot of things that can cause this, but the big things that we're talking about today are more than likely what's causing your problem. Now, if you guys have any questions, comments, whatever, just leave them down below. You know, I'm going to go ahead and put a ding up there for you for a card, and that goes over all different kinds of knee things. Stretching, strengthening, ACL repairs. I have all kinds of videos in that knee. So if you want to go back and look at that, I'd love it. Scully would love it too. You know, we'd love to have you guys subscribe. We try and bring videos a couple times a week. I just got done with my video yesterday on the hip and like hip trauma and where's this, you know, pain possibly coming from. So I'd love to have you guys look at that one if you have any questions on that. The last thing I want to talk about with this knee is, you know, after a while this kneecap starts to wear. You know, and no matter what we do, and when that starts to wear down, it gets thinning area on the cartilage, whether it's on the knee joint or the kneecap, you're going to start to have some pain. Now, one thing they might want to do is unload that kneecap with either maybe a strap across it. They might do this with, you know, if you're having some tendonitis, it's called a patellar tendon strap, or they might put some tape across this kneecap to kind of lift and unload that knee joint, and sometimes that can help reduce a little bit of your pain. So I'll leave a little pic up there for you. You guys can see that little strap or tape across there. As well as, you know, they might do some taping on the inside of the knee. If you see some running or sporting events, you'll have all this different types of color tape, kinesio tape or rock tape. It's, you know, depending on the manufacturer, it's really all doing the same thing, trying to unload or reduce the stress along those knee joints, whether it's the tendons causing the pain or just pressure. So it does help a little bit. So if you guys have any questions on that, you can go ahead and leave a comment down below. But, you know, that's really it that I'm going to talk about this episode on the knee. And, you know, maybe in the future I might talk about maybe some knee replacements if you want to hear that one. I'd love to, you know, if you have questions on that, I can go ahead and do a video on that one. But until next time, don't we, Scully? Scully and I always want to say, look up and keep smiling. See you next time, folks.